We need to get the final application of the Meguiar's treatment on the frame and the fork and chain guard. And then we also need to clean up the axle parts, the spokes, spoke nipples, and the rim, and put the wheel back together. That's what's happening on this episode of Featherstone Bicycles. The last step in restoring the frame is the wax, which is Meguiar's Gold Class Carnauba Plus. It's a liquid wax. We put it on and we let it dry completely. And then wipe it off. Now that we've got the wax on the frame and the fork and the chain guard, we'll let that dry for a day or two. And we're going to get going on first the wheel, because this is going to get really wet and we're going to need to let that sit and dry. The water gets in the little weep holes here, so I let that dry for a while I clean up the rest of the parts of the wheel before I start the reassembly. So what I've got here is a little hot water, and I've poured some of the Walmart Great Value multi-purpose degreaser in there, and we're just going to dip our wire wheel and our drill bit in there and start getting the rust off the frame. we'll take some steel wool and go through each spoke just a little bit to get the initial grease and dirt off. Because again, if I put these on the wire wheel as is, it makes a mess. All right, we've got our wheel up on a hook, drying off. We've got our spokes drying off over here. So we'll start to take the axle parts out and clean those off. First thing of which is I'm just going to get a Q-tip in there and get all that old grease off of there. There's a dust cap that fits into this axle housing that protects the ball bearings. It's really hard to get out, and more often than not, when I've done it in the past, you know, you have to end up putting a screwdriver in or something from the side, and you end up bending it all out of shape. So it's like other things on the bikes. It's more worry than it's worth. So I just leave them in. Just going to use the steel wool on the axle housing. Tend to the wire wheel seems to sometimes get that little dull, and then I end up having to use steel wool on it anyway. putting the wheel back together. Excuse me, just the axle at this point. Get some grease. Fit each of the ball bearings down in there. thought that might have been too aggressive for one episode. So we've got everything clean now for the front wheel. And next episode, we'll start with putting it all back together and truing it up and then move on to another part. Thanks for sticking with me. Check out the link for the podcast, An Army of Normal Folks. And I hope to see you next time on Featherstone Bicycles.